name is Anand Gupta. Presently, I am the Honorary General Secretary of Builders Association of India. I am also be honored as a Vice President of Remaking of Mumbai Federation. I myself is a developer and contractor. We have got our two stalwarts, Mr. Lalit Gandhi and Mr. Mayank Gandhi, who are presently the chairman and the secretary of Remaking of Mumbai Federation, and have taken a gigantic task of remake the whole south of Mumbai. They are going to give their ideas how all the dilapidated buildings of A, B, C, D, E ward can be restructured on a self-financing basis.
On dais, delegates and friends. First of all, I would like to thank Dharmesh Bhai for his very good words to me. But I would like to say that behind every successful man, there is a woman. First of all, it's to be decided whether I'm successful or not. But at least if we consider that we have reached to this stage for a conference, then yes, woman behind me is my wife, who is sitting over here. But so far as the RMF is concerned, right, a man behind me, I would say no, man with me to take RMF to this stage is none else than Mayank Gandhi. I would like to share the credit what has been given by Dharmesh Bhai to me in 50% with him. But without him, we could not have reached to this stage. All coordination with Ctbuh, that part of it, he has fully taken care, and this conference is a resultant of the same. I would say that C ward on which we are going to speak today is a focal point of the cluster development. When we put up a concept to Honorable Chief Minister after the calamities of 4 buildings consecutive falling, after 26/7 flooding in 2005, the concept was well accepted. But government told us that if you can show some pilot project on which your concept can be implemented, then yes, we can believe the efficacy of the implementation of the same. C ward is an area whereby the density of the dilapidated building is absolutely thick. You won't believe, but only 11% is the open space. And otherwise 89% all dilapidated buildings are there which have outlived their lives, and any time it means any time in a coming decade they may fall. So we have selected that area. And again, government, I would not like to criticize, but in Dharavi, which is other part of urban renewal, slum, they started in a pyramid structure from top to bottom. I mean, they decided certain policies and try to implement on the people, on the slum dwellers residing there. There were tremendous resistance which we could able to see in last 3 to 4 years. Government till now couldn't able to put into implementation. Here what we did is started from the bottom of the pyramid to the top. We contacted thousands of people residing in that area. We contacted the landlords of all this building. We made a 4 big public meeting whereby more than 20-25,000 people attended it and put up our concept to them. And you won't believe there was a tremendous response from them. We made this presentation to various government authorities, whether it may be bureaucrats, whether it may be ministers, at center, at state, whether it may be financial institutions. 30 to 40 presentations we made to them and tried to explain. And then the second endeavor, what we did is a Herculean problem in that area was about the CRZ issue. C and D ward is the area of our focusing, 232 acres of C ward. We made a pilot project to put into implementation. And the area from south towards north, that is Dhobitalau to Opera House, those who are aware of the geography of the Bombay. The western side of that is fully packed and covered in a CRZ area, older provision. You can't develop. The viability of the development was not feasible in that area. The 4 meetings what we did in that area and took people into the confidence, you wouldn't believe 20,000 people have signed the memorandum which we put up to the government of India for changing the laws for the redevelopment of older building. And in the last few days we are seeing that yes, government is considering the proposal, central government. Because FSI is hub in that area. Total area is 552 acres. Integrated planning is feasible. Only these 4 roads, within these 4 roads. Otherwise, if we take at moment pilot project, what we have selected, 232, it remains half of the C and D ward boundaries. So ultimately, we may go for this pilot project, planning there. And in that big area of 552 to 232, and 232 we have chosen a 30 acres area, because what we would like to do in a macro, first be shown into a micro. So that 30 acres area was chosen to make a detailed plan of the same. That plan is in continuity of the overall plan. Mayank will show in detail in his presentation that how the total area is covered, etc. I'm not going into the nitty-gritty of the same. Continuity of the infrastructure, roads, bridges, drainage, water supply, line are being kept. 30 acres plan has been made in detail in such a fashion that continuity of all this infrastructure has been kept in mind. And in that 30 acres planning, I mean, another part of it, I would say, go in past of the remaking, that the rules were not that much favorable. Rules were to be modified. A particular section 33(9) of the MHADA Act for the cess building and is modified and made to such an extent that the development can become feasible. But in this government, you know, it is a lot of time taking, and yet you do not get the desired result. So 33(9) was though modified to make all this cluster development as per the new housing policy feasible. That also was not in that proper shape. It was, I would say, defective, because it was not matching with the notification which has been changed. So 33(9) was made feasible for the public. Our main support is the public, who are the affected people. When the building falls, people die, are the people residing in that building. So 70% of the consent of that area makes the proposal eligible. That is what the change government did last month on the 10th of December. And now I would say that our proposal is ready. In these 30 acres, the biggest second endeavor, what we did is took a consent of 75% of the 8,500 tenants. The confidence what we have won from them, it was reflected in taking that consent. In 2.5 months we did this job. And now the proposal is ready. We have already submitted to the government and we are waiting for letter of intent to come, and then we can show that in what manner, in a mini pilot project we call, the things could be implemented. We are hopeful that the process, what has been started by ROMF in Seaboard, shall be expanded to the island city of Mumbai, 16,500 acres, whereby more than 32,000 dilapidated buildings are concentrated and 25 lakhs of people are staying in that. Their life is at stake. It will be expanded to that extent, and then, if successful, it may be expanded further to all around the big cities in the India. It may be a Chandni Chowk of Delhi. It may be a Bada Bazaar of Calcutta. It may be a Kalupur or Daryapur area of Ahmedabad, and such all big cities, right? Whereby the problem is similar, inner city problem is similar, because the buildings are constructed before 100 years. And the recent city has been developed outside. So we are hoping that the solution, what we are trying to endeavor, right? If successful in Mumbai, we are trying to make it successful in India and all around the world, because this inner city is a problem of every city and not only cities in India. Thank you.
Lalit Bhai pointed out, if we all pray and we give him all best wishes and we really mean it, once he succeeds to make this successful, this pilot project, probably not only the same can be followed by the whole Bombay, but by the whole country. And we can have the whole thing in a new shape and a new form.
I'll just give a rejoinder to what Dharmesh has been saying. Last year when the students came from Chicago, I went to the national park, Borivali National Park, to Canary Caves, climbed right to the top of the mountain, and there was a beautiful view. There was what nature had done, and after the mountain, there were these millions of buildings, and what mankind had done. I think mankind should be spanked. That's messed up this country. I think we need to go back to the drawing board and see how we construct. We will keep on constructing. It's how we construct which is more important. Okay, Island City. This is what Island City looks like. The reason is because of archaic laws, predominant chawls, incremental development. It's an awkward, haphazard incremental development process rather than a deliberately planned process. These are the kind of buildings, and this is the kind of problems that the people in Seaward and in Island City of Mumbai live through. And this is the trigger which made us form the Remaking of Mumbai. 26 July 2005, 4 buildings fell, 100 people died. We kept on waiting for government to act, and we thought maybe now we need to take on the baton and start moving. And that's why this was formed with some of the finest people this country has ever had. Justice Bhagwati, our Supreme Court, Mr. Narayan Murthy, various eminent people who came together and formed this federation because enough was enough. This is the managing committee. And because in a noisy, vibrant, a dynamic country like India, a democracy like ours, there were few principles we need to get into place before renewal could take place. One is, A, it has to be inclusive. You have to take everyone together. It had to be win-win because you needed everyone's support. And thirdly, it had to be self-financing because we are still don't have that kind of budgetary support to do things like this. If it was, we would not have been in this state. So these are the three principles. So based on that, we went to various associations of stakeholders, made their associations members. So over 50 associations, not-for-profit, academic institutions came together, and we have 13,000 individual members who are people living in Seaward, and we tried to make this into a movement, and that has borne fruit. And because the skill sets that's necessary to make a city like Mumbai is not available in India, we have tied up with the Ctbuh, signed a memorandum that their members would come and work for Remaking of Mumbai, because Remaking of Mumbai is not just a small project of 30 acres or 233 acres, it's a far bigger one, and it's a replicable, it's a scalable model which can be replicated across the nation because there are these inner city chaos happening all over the country, and I would say all over the world. I don't think, even though I would disagree a little bit with Andrew, I don't think anywhere that I have found real good models which have taken things holistically in a complete manner. We also have been doing design studios, and some of the models that we looked at, the Shanghai in the middle 80s or Hong Kong in 65, actually had a picture that this entire horizontal structure went into a vertical one with a great deal of open space, which I don't have right now. Singapore, before Leak 1, you have started working on that. And when we suggested, I'm just going through that in my first one, so I won't repeat, but that we should make a number of clusters based on certain characteristics, and out of the 16,500 acres of Mumbai city, 7,000 should be broken up into clusters of about 100 clusters of about 70, where majority of the buildings are old and dilapidated. Now this is a model. When we went to the government and we told them that what you really need to do is have a central planning, city planning and monitoring company, and you break up the city into various sectors, and this body would do the complete infrastructural planning, because unless you do into a deliberate plan, into a holistic, integrated development plan, especially for the infrastructure, we are never going to have a real world-class city. I think is just a misnomer. I don't think it's going to happen, and I hope I'm proved wrong. But like somebody said some time back, why didn't we think of this when we were 8 million? Now we were 16 plus. And somebody just told me 19 million. I think the problems are too enormous. But we still need to give it a shot. I think this is the way forward. So we looked at one of the models. So government told us, you take up one model and show the efficacy that this is a workable model. So 233 acres, 2,200 total buildings, out of which 1777 are old buildings. Population is about 100,000, but because it's a mixed population, because there are markets there, during the daytime there are 500,000 people, a ratio of 1:5 in night time and daytime. And in the average size of a tenement, while we looked at some of the housing problem, one of the key housing problem is that people are living in very small units. So the average size is 140 square feet. And Alan Burtard in his report to the World Bank says it's the lowest per head space in the world, which is shameful for a city like ours. Because there wasn't enough data, we had to do a lot of data mapping. We marked all the schools, colleges, gardens, markets. We broke it up into clusters, 125 clusters, so that we could do a simpler process. And then we had about 80 people going for 8 months door to door to get a complete survey done. So we had a summary of how many clusters, in cluster how much residential, commercial, building details of each, who are the landlords, what is the area, and who are the people who are living in each and every building. Probably I know more about that area than anybody. If somebody has got a mistress there, I would know it. And then we did community mapping, how many Hindu, Muslim, Christians, residential, what are the profile of those, commercial, what are the profiles, and most importantly, we did a lot of community engagement. We went door to door. We had this camera which followed us as we went door to door, asking people what they felt about the whole thing, their suggestions. We took that film, we had a question answer session with the experts who decided what is right, gave the answers. We ran that on cable for about a month and a half. We had phone-ins where people called up to say what their problem was, get clarifications. We had 3 public meetings of around 15,000 people, corner meetings, and we got the business community, various stakeholder associations involved, various groups of stakeholders, the building representative forum with 2 or 3 people from every building, citizen forum, a federation of associations for the business angle, and landlord welfare association which was supporting this whole movement. These are some of the public meetings. And this is a public meeting where we had congressmen or MLAs from all 4 political parties who came together and said, and that was in a hall in which you left your footwear behind. So they said jointly that like we leave our footwear behind, we are leaving our politics behind. We are here for national reconstruction and will support that. And it's been borne out that the political parties from all hues and colors have supported this movement tremendously. Because to engage with the community, we have a monthly newsletter in 4 languages, 18,000 copies of which go every month. We have been trying to build support, we have been trying to build momentum, we have been trying to build debate regarding urban issues. So we've been having roundtable discussions with the Times of India group and having it regularly. And in India, sustainability is a new word. Right now it's a very catchy word. Everyone you meet, the 3rd word he says is sustainability. But really, development has always been looked upon as anti-environment, and environmentalists as are anti-development. So you need to find a way by which development, because a poor country, a developing country cannot do without development. How do you do development? That are the key issues, and how do you set standards for sustainable development is something that we have applied a lot of principles and so the 3 critical things would be the ecological, economic and social things, social aspects which would create a water management process, a black water management process which would save 37% of the water, energy network using green fuel saving 39%, solid waste management. But this is the crux. I know that I'm going a little fast, but I respect your time. This is the crux on which this entire thing is based. The 33(9), which is the new section of the government of Maharashtra, which talks about cluster development, says that if the residents of those areas are given 100 square feet, then the developer gets to make 180 square feet. The 80 square feet he can sell off to cross-subsidize the entire process, and the 100 square feet he will have to rehabilitate the local people who are there. So they are shifted to a transit or a temporary accommodation. There is redevelopment and they are brought back. So out of that 80% that is there for the developer, a certain portion goes to the landlord, a certain portion goes as a corpus fund, the interest of which will take care of the maintenance of those buildings of the existing residents, and the developer gets 65% to cross-subsidize. But within this 65%, and this I want to draw your attention to, within those 65%, in that 233 acre, we would be making 1,500 tenements free of charge for the lower income group, for the economically weaker section, and 500 crores or 5,000 million rupees we will be giving just for this cluster to the government of Maharashtra to create a dedicated infrastructure fund. Now, if you were to extrapolate that to the 70 clusters that we are talking about, we are talking about an infrastructure fund which will take care of the city of Mumbai. We don't need money. We are using land as a leverage. We are using the high prices of Mumbai as a process by which the 2 critical issues of housing and infrastructure could be solved. The advantage that the area would get is, because we are going vertical, we would, due to the densification, we have to go vertical, and by going vertical, we will be leaving 70% open space. There are some of the new buildings that have been created, we will maintain and plan around that. Public amenities, temples, religious places, we will augment. In short, we will be planning for a world-class amenities and areas. The tenants who are living in small houses will get a much bigger house because the minimum area, due to the kind of mass mobilization that has been brought through by various forces, by the political parties, by remaking of Mumbai, has been increased to 300 from 225 square feet. So every tenant gets a minimum of 300 square feet. There will be financial guarantees, there will be a grievance council to look after, but most critically, and this I would like your attention on, that every tenant who comes to us will get his legitimate space, but more than that, he gets a convertible debenture of the developing company, which will become the equity of the place. So every developer would have these tenants, landlords and various stakeholders as equity partners in this development process. So landlords would get the same, traders and shopkeepers. Here I just like to make a point that the Western model of having a shopping mall which would close down a 40 to 50 mom and pop stores is not something that's very ideal for India. I'm not too sure it's very ideal for the rest of the world, but in any case it's not so good for India where there is unemployment and poverty. So we are looking at a process of cooperatives of traders which would form this kind of a shopping complexes. The hawkers and laborers would have more work opportunities. The poor people who are living in cramped conditions, the migrant laborers, you would build open, airy dormitories with clean beds for them to stay. There would be separate hawking zones. Back lanes would be planned for loading, unloading. So this is the master plan. So these are all the buildings that I am marking on. So this is the 233 acre cluster. So these are arterial road, the cluster, heritage buildings. So this is the final plan. I'll not go too deep into that, but I'll show you a small video of that. So within that, just to begin a smaller project, we have taken a 30 acre project which is marked in red. It's 362 buildings, which have about 8,000 tenements, around 50% residential and 50 commercial. And the kind of support that we have found from that people is 73.9% have signed, and if you do not talk about those which are locked permanently, then we have got 84.3% people's consent. What is the outcome of this master plan? From 11% open space, this has 20.8% roads. I can't point out. And 48%, so over 70% is open space including roads. So this is the island city of Mumbai where the old and dilapidated buildings are. As you can see, there's very few green spaces. This is the seaward. This is the 233 acre, which we intend to redevelop in this manner. There will be a mix of tall and not so tall buildings. We will be looking very closely at the cultural, the social, the ethos of this place. We will try and maintain the characteristic of seaward. We are not going to transplant a Shanghai or a Manhattan or a Chicago here. We are going to see that it is seaward and it looks like the street life, the flavor of that area needs to be maintained. If you look here, this is the Kalbadevi road, that is the JSS road. But one swallow does not a summer make. Just doing one is not going to be enough. You have to understand that if the road is become broad here, it goes into a narrow road again. So you need to develop clusters together. You need to do a lot of parallel development. On the top is their comparative, how it looks now and what it will be. The red buildings are the existing buildings, the temple, the heritage structures, and the new buildings. That is Metro Cinema. So again I will repeat Margaret Mead. Do not doubt that a small group of thoughtful people can change the world. Indeed, that's the only one that can. Thank you, sir.